Hello, everyone. It is Monday, February 16th, and in this video, I'm going to be going over a few different things. So, commodities, stocks, I'll go over Bitcoin, TLT. So, we'll just get started. And on here, right now, I got copper, right? And I have it on the 4 hour time frame, a volume with a volume profile overlaid on top, and some levels, right? And a couple trend lines here. So, pretty much I'm seeing copper is like in a range, right? Pretty much between like 6.11 and 5.7, 5.69 uh, is the rough range. There's little extensions underneath, over top, right? It's not perfect, but you can see it hasn't really gone anywhere much since December. Okay, and the high volume node area is 5.92 just about. So I am, as of right now, like I am in a trade on copper. I am long. I'm targeting, the upper side of this range. This could very well come back down and test the bottom side again. Um, and I would like to long that too. Just treat it as a range. Just straight price action there, right? And if I go to the hourly chart, I don't know why it looks different on the 4 hour, but a few trend lines of significance, right? Uh, this one, shorter term, has been acting as resistance on copper. So if it can't break out of this, then it's probably going to come back down to around 5.69, right? If it does break above, I would expect it to hit like 5.8. And if it breaks out of that, hit this high volume area around 5.92. And I would think uh, it would slowly trade back up to 6.11 potentially as well. But we're going to have to see. Um, that's just the price action. When I look at it on the cycle analyzer from the foundation, I have a 67-day cycle here. That's not bad. It has a strength of 1.97 and a stability of 0.63. This does trough beginning of March, right? And right now, copper, looking at it on the chart, it has just been going sideways, right? So this could be possibly accumulation um, before the cycles turn back up, you know, in March going into April on the 67 day, right? There's another cycle here, 199, that has peaked, right? So we're just going to continue analyzing the chart as days go on, right? But as it stands, when you go to the higher time frame on copper, this is still pretty much an uptrend. Like until proven otherwise, copper is higher time frame still uptrending, right? It's just going through a period of consolidation because it's had a strong move since August, right? So just treat it as a range right now and potentially accumulation. That's my bias, but it doesn't matter, right? At the end of the day, um, to prove otherwise, range and potentially accumulation. So until it's not. All right. Now I'm gonna go into silver. So I have silver on the 4 hour chart as well. Um, Possibly a pennant pattern here. I know it's trading out of it. It could also not be, right? I mainly here see a inverse head and shoulders potentially that's formed. So like this could be the left shoulder, the head right here. This is the right shoulder, and this could potentially move up, right? Um, if it does break out of this pennant and get above 82.7, get above this red Fibonacci resistance zone, which has rejected off of before. If, so it could trend up to $86 potentially. Um, and if it does break out of this, then it could definitely go towards 90 to, I know it's a big range, but pretty much just other Fibonacci resistance zone, 92 to 108, right, on silver. These gray boxes I have are volume resistances, right, volume areas. that could act as resistance on the upside. I also have on the downside that could be support. Um, but looking at it, it does silver does look more bullish to me based off the patterns. And currently it's holding above the high volume node here around 75.3. Also this short-term 50% level from the February 11th high to the February 5th low. So it's a cluster zone of support right there at 75.2s, right? So that's an important level to hold. And if it does hold above that, I expect it to grind upwards. So we'll see over the coming days if that is what it's going to do, right? So looking at it on the daily, it's getting tight. You can see the inverse head and shoulders there a bit too, right? Like there is that pattern potentially. And from my experience, inverse head and shoulders play out a lot more than regular head and shoulders do. Don't know why, but they do. So I do like the setup. I am in it personally. Um, yeah. Okay. And then the weekly, which is really interesting. I know the sentiment on metals is like really bad. I have no idea if there has been a significant high or not been put in. I know that there's an untouched wick here on the weekly chart, and untouched wicks usually like to get touched. That sounds really weird. Sorry. But there's an untouched wick there, and the weekly back tested the 21 EMA and currently has been holding above. So this is still, again, an uptrend. Um, right? Till there's weekly closes under the 21, there's no, besides that sell off, that's the only argument I guess you could say that the Bears have, like that there's been a significant top. Now it could consolidate and chop around between maybe 90 and $70 or whatever for a while, sure. Um, but until that weekly EMA is like closed, broken below, this is still technically an uptrend on silver. So that bullish bias is still there, in my opinion. So yeah, that's silver, and I will look at it as well on the cycles. Silver futures, we have a 16, 75, and 105-day cycle. Um, Also, I have it on my journal right now. I was going over this about 2 days ago and last night just to prepare for the video and also my own analysis. A 26-day and a 16-day cycle are something I've been looking at, right? Um, did it last night. So there's like that little thing right there. I'm not going to update it right now because then I'll have to like click it again. But yeah, this cycle composite of the 26 and 16 day, which is a shorter term cycle, um, did trough on the 11th, right? Yes, price action on silver has just been chopping around, just consolidating. Um, the momentum has been grinding up. It's gotten heavily hammered, right? Let me update this real quick too. So this cycle composite goes up into March 9th, March 10th, and potentially also February 20th here. There's a little arc here, if you can kind of see that. So around like the 20th, 19th, 20th of February, so another 3 to 4 days from now, from today, there could be a peak as well, and a peak March 9th and March 10th. So shorter term, midterm, however you want to classify it. Um, I do like that the shorter term cycle composite is pointed up. And also there's bullish pattern here on the silver futures chart. So I like that. Um, and then the higher time frame with the weekly is still technically an uptrend. Okay. Um, yeah. Okay. S&P. Look at the S&P now. We did copper and silver. Look at S&P. ES futures right here. All right. So for I have one cycle here on S&P, which is the 58-day cycle, which isn't bad. It's pretty decent. Um, Let me update this real quick. Sorry. It always does this. I have no clue why. So just keeping it simple. Uh, this cycle does trough on the 18th, so in 2 more days, on Wednesday. Um, Now, is the exact trough going to come in that day? It could. Not sure. I'm going to get into the chart in a second, but this is in a troughing period now, right? We're plus or minus a few days, so S&P trough could have been in now, or it's going to be coming soon. If it is, right, the bullish case is still there. And this does turn up into end of March, right? March 30th, March 31st. Um, okay, so but regardless, as of you know February 16th today, we're in a choppy period potentially for S&P. So I would like to look for longs, and when I go to the S&P 500 futures chart, I have it here on the 4 hour. What's it been doing? It's been consolidating around the high volume node of this, overall choppy grind up range, I guess you want to say. It hasn't really gone anywhere since October, right? Not much has happened, right? So it's consolidating at this high volume node, and potentially also again there could be a inverse head and shoulders here. I know it's a bit ugly. Maybe you could draw it from here. Um, Regardless, it's that's one of the things I see when I look at it. Um, if it plays out, awesome. If it doesn't, okay. Uh, it, if that doesn't play out, I would expect this broadening pattern, the bottom side of this to get hit around the 6700s on the S&P. But if that inverse head and shoulders pattern doesn't play out, I would expect, first of all, this down trend line here to get hit around the higher 6900s, right? Which again is also a resistance in this volume area, in this overall choppy range, right? And if that breaks out of there, then around 770s to 7100 on S&P could be on the table going into maybe the end of February or sometime in the March. Um, yeah, all right. So that's my look on S&P. I have more of a bullish bias considering that the 58 cycle is uh, going to look for a trough soon. Uh, if it works out, that that fits the bullish bias. And there's a bullish pattern as well, price action that I see. Okay, so that's S&P. Okay, and then let me go over oil. So I have oil on the 8 hour time frame. First of all, there is a dot printing on the 8 hour time frame. I really like that, right? And it's about to close in a minute and 40 seconds. It's likely going to close above the 8 hour 21 EMA. So I would expect some more upside here on oil, but I don't think it's going to break out above 66 yet. Maybe it does. I don't think so, and I'll get into why, which is because of the cycle. Um, so I think it will continue, treating this as an upwards type of choppy range, finding resistance maybe between 64, 64 and a half, or most likely 65 to 66, resistance up here before chopping about, finding higher lows, and just overall grinding up since December 16th, 2 months ago, right? The high volume node is at 62.92, just about close to 63. We'd just say 63. Um, I have a golden Fibonacci support right here. The gold, the 50% level here is 60.75, so that's extremely important to hold above. If oil were to test that and respect that, that's great. If it breaks under this, right, it's not a good look. There's a last ditch effort support here, 59 to 57, um, but I would be cautious. For me, I would look to bid that if it looks right to, but I would I wouldn't be as bullish as I would be, currently on oil, as it's above its 50% and also golden pocket here. Um, so let me take that off, clean up the chart a bit. But yeah, potentially here, you can always move these type of patterns around over time, right? Some sort of triangle maybe forming here. Um, so I'll watch that. Maybe this forms, right? And it's funny actually because this gets tight going into the 24th, which we'll go into the cycle now, which is why I think it's pretty interesting. Um, yeah. Okay. Oil. Where are you at? Right here. Crude oil, less noise. Alrighty. So I did this 4 days ago. Not much has changed, right? But basically, this 178-day and 24-day cycle does trough around the 24th, right? Plus or minus a day or two. But this uptrend, it's still an uptrend on oil, right? And treat it as such. If it's still in an uptrend position, right, on the price action chart around the 24th, then I would look for longs. I would be biased long because that's the troughing period on this composite. And it does point up into mid March, ultimately up into, close to end of May. So, yeah, also, I believe February is also like a great seasonality period for oil on the bullish bias. So that, that's also behind the, you know, the bull buys, right? Um, so yeah, that's oil. I, I really like bidding oil in the mid 62s, right? Um, Pretty much just the golden pocket, right? And the 100 and the 50 and 100 moving averages, depending on the time frame. Right? If we go to the daily, just hide all that. It's been respecting this. It's been consolidating above the 200 and the 21. This does look very good to me. I really like this chart. It does look like it wants to go towards like 70 to 77. Pretty big move, right? And I know there's like the Iran tensions and all that stuff. I don't really pay attention to the news. Show me the chart, I'll tell you the news. There's all these tensions or whatever, right? And I mean, do you need that really? Because look at the chart; it's in an uptrend, right? So look for supports to bid. Um, yeah. So with that being said, I'd like oil, and about a week from now, I really want to look for swing longs if it hasn't broken out already, right? Um, yeah. Okay. Let's look at natural gas that had a down day today. Um, it is looks like it's going to close back inside this pattern, right? This major support level, right? That's been support since February of 2024, um, with just a wick under, like a bit of a hammer candle, right? Uh, I want to continue waiting to see how this goes, because I've seen many times where hammer candles print and it just go, this could just drop. There's a support here at 280 to 260s. Uh, so I want to keep watching natural gas. It's the widowmaker, so better to be patient on it than be antsy on it. Um, yeah, I do like the support area. Just I want to keep seeing how that plays out on natural gas, and I do have a cycle on it, and I believe it is bullish into August. This is a bigger picture cycle. It's a 353-day cycle. A lot is going to happen in between, right? Uh, so yeah, cycle momentum is coming up a bit. We'll have to see how it updates the next few days. Um, yeah, it's just a tricky one here. There's possibly actually a pennant here. I just noticed it on the 4 hour time frame. Some sort of pattern here for me, triangle pattern. This actually reminds me of the oil pattern that I longed right down here. This was beginning of January, and I caught this move. If I go to the 4 hour time frame, there was a pennant just like that down here. Pretty sure it was like something like this. Oops, the freaking magnet, man. Whatever. There was a pennant down there. I remember trading it, and I got it like around 56s. That reminds me of that. But on natural gas now, which is really interesting. Hmm. Yeah, I want to see how this trades over the next day or two on natural gas. Definitely an interesting area though it's in for sure. Uh, so, all right, wheat. Look at wheat. This is WEAT, the fund for wheat, right? If you want to get exposed to it, and you can't do futures. It did break on the 12th. It did break out above this pennant, and then it had an inside candle. So probably just consolidating that move. The measured move of this is up to 22, right? And if there's acceptance, like strong acceptance around there and above 21.7, I would look for 22, 20, pretty much $23 on this, right? And I also have cycle chart, which is interesting as well. 96 day and 172 day. Let this load. Okay, cool. And I need to update this again for some reason. All right. So in the cyclic RSI here on the bottom, it did confirm above the blue. Yeah, I guess you could say it's overbought. Yeah, sure. But overbought can continue being overbought. It's just a sign of strength to me, right? And also, the cycle momentum confirmed green ever so slightly. Uh, so, and I guess let me update this. Fresh. It's 96, 19, 172. 96, 19, 172. Here we go. All right. Yeah. So it continued some more, right? And this could probably find a little slowdown around the 24th, 23rd of February. So a week from now, pretty much, before finding a trough maybe beginning of March. And it does head up into end of March or mid April for wheat futures, right? So there is a very nice look here, a bullish bias on wheat. Uh, yeah. Also, there's a lot of confluence with February 24th, around the end of this month, pretty much across the board, like S&P, Bitcoin, wheat, oil. There's a lot of confluence. There's a lot of dates across the board on different assets with that. So a week from now is going to be pretty important. Yeah. Okay. I want to look at Tesla, and I'm actually going to pull Tesla up on the cycle chart first as well, and then I'll pull up the chart itself. Where is it? Right here. I hope it's saved and I don't have to restart this. Okay, awesome. A 51-day cycle. Let's refresh this. Okay, 51 day. All right. So this 51-day cycle does peak beginning of March, right? Let me pull up the tools. All right, cycle momentum is green. It's cyclic RSI is currently testing the underside of the blue. Would like to see that get back inside. But I do like how there is a, you know, upside buys for the next 2 weeks on Tesla because when I go to the chart, I do like it. Um, okay, all right. So daily test. The February 5th daily test of the 200-day EMA held above. Right. This is also a double bottom, pretty much. Roughly, it's not perfect, but you know, roughly a double bottom. Okay. Uh, then there's also this potentially forming as well. You know, Head and Shoulders, which is bearish, but there could be still more upside here. There's also a gap here at 470s, right? Which could also come in with you know resistance of this left shoulder, right? And it's at 417 right now. Yeah, this is also you can also treat this as a range, so trading between 386 and 470s. So yeah, potentially it's an aggressive trade, right? Tesla maybe I would it has to look for a higher low here. Um, Market's closed today, so we'll see how this week goes. Um, but I do like the Tesla setup here. It's more of an aggressive one. Um, but yeah, I there if the S&P does start to bounce, right, that inverse head and shoulder does play out bullishly. I would expect Tesla to trade upwards, right, towards 470. That's mainly my main target there on Tesla from where it's at now. Okay. All right. Natural gas, oil, TLT. Alrighty. So the weekly confirmed the dot, stochastics up, VWAP's positive. Uh, that is a nice engulfing candle to weekly too. So nice look on TLT, right? It does look like it's wants to test that 100-day or 100 weekly moving average at 91. Okay, then there's a bigger resistance trend line here around 95, depending on whenever it hits it. High 94s, $95. Potentially, if that breaks out, then probably 99, $100 for TLT. But first is 91 to 95, right? So I also did see an analysis where, again, it's another one of these potentially inverse head and shoulder patterns as well. I didn't notice that myself. I saw someone else uh, talk about that, and I can see it now. So very interesting. I do like how TLT looks. Um, then there's also cycle backing it up as well, right? Um, I hope to save because this is a few different composites. It did not save. Oh my goodness. Why does it do this? Okay. 338, 135, 154, and 17. Okay. Let's see if I can remember that. 338, 135, 154, and 17. Okay, cool. Alright, gonna have to restart this. Alright, there we go. Cycle momentum's positive. Cyclic RSI is pointed up. It hasn't tussled the upper side below yet either. And this composite of these four different cycles has a peak around the 18th, so 2 more days. Um, Troughs around the end of this month. It goes up into March 13th, March 14th, just about, maybe 16th, plus or minus a few days, right? But overall, the cycle is pointed out pretty much into April of this composite. Um, so whatever that means for the market, don't know, but I do like TLT on the cycle analysis and the chart itself. It does look good. I do like this for mid 90s to $100 potentially as a swing trade. So TLT does look pretty nice. All right, very simple there. Um, yeah, it could be just by the dips on TLT into April potentially. And I also remember writing a journal entry to myself a few months ago, more than a couple of few months ago. It was the end of last year. Um, talking about how mid-January was a time to look for swing longs to swing them into March and April. It wasn't perfect, obviously, because mid-January was right here. It was a little more choppy, but it didn't really go much. It just went sideways pretty much. And now it's starting to go as we're getting into close to the end of February. Um, so it's pretty interesting. I do like TLT as a swing long trade. So for me personally, I would like to wait into the end of this month potentially for what I would think is a higher low going to form, right? Because the end of this month is a cycle trough potentially on that composite, and on the daily chart we see EMAs curling back up, right? Um, this when TLT tends to run, you can see here like it runs well, but there are higher lows to get in on the daily time frame, right? Gaps up and gaps down. So, around the end of this month, I would like to look for swing longs heading into March and April on TLT. Okay, and then my last one I want to talk about is Bitcoin, right? So here on the 4 hour chart, it looks like it's kind of rejecting this upward trend line. There's only been two taps of it. This is the third, so we're going to have to see how it reacts here. Um, but it is under this high volume node area. That's only from the 6th of February, so 10 days of price action history on it. But nonetheless, it is under that area, which is bearish. And also, if you pull up a Fibonacci here, right, it didn't break above the February 8th high. So this zone could still be tested at support between 66.2 and 63K. So that's the 4 hour time frame. It's also under the 21 moving average on the 4 hour. So a little short term bias downside. But when you go to the daily, yes, it can hit 66 or whatever, hit the zone, or if we're higher low above it. The daily 21's coming in, right, for the lower 70s. And we also have a key date coming up on the square of 9 here, 17th. So tomorrow, plus or minus a day or two, right? But the 17th, the key date, right? So combining this date with the cycle analysis I have on Bitcoin, I hope this. Okay, cool. I know it's updated. All right. This cycle composite of 278, 84, 39. It gives me a bullish bias on Bitcoin going into the end of February or early March, right? Now, Bitcoin does not have to be bullish. It can just chop around sideways, be very boring between 72 and 60, right? But if that cycle composite is going to be bullish, um, I like where Bitcoin is at as a trade, right? A good risk reward trade. If it doesn't break below 60, right, uh, or 63.8, right, this scan support level here, pivot. I would look for, you know, upside uh, towards 76, 80, 85, right? Which are also some Fibonacci zones, some cluster areas of resistance, which is interesting. Uh, but yeah, we're gonna have to see. Bitcoin's being really, really choppy. Like this February 12th low, I'm thinking more it could be a daily higher low. Um, if it's not, okay, because you still have this Fibonacci support here. But if Bitcoin closes under 63K, starts going under there, maybe it goes for a double bottom or it just breaks under, goes in the 50s, and that bullish bias, that trade setup with the cycle, all that, like it's thrown out the window. Obviously, it's bearish. Something else is going on, right? Um, but right now, I do want to. I'm more bullish and would like to bid support for a swing long into end of February or early March for BTC. Um, yeah, so there's that for this video. I know I jumped around a few, many charts, but just going off of what I've been looking at the past week or so, my ideas on everything. Of course, none of this is financial advice. Don't listen to a random dude on the internet. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.